Once a beloved clothing brand for teenagers and young adults, Abercrombie & Fitch has recently fallen from grace. The company, known for its trendy designs and provocative marketing, has struggled to adapt to the changing retail landscape and evolving consumer preferences. In this video, we will explore the rise and fall of Abercrombie & Fitch and examine the factors that led to its downfall, from controversies surrounding its marketing campaigns to the shift towards online shopping. We will uncover the story behind the once popular brand's decline and what it means for the future of retail. If you were alive in the early 2000s, you probably remember Abercrombie & Fitch as one of the coolest clothing stores around. But did you know that this brand has been around since 1892? It all started as a humble hunting and fishing store founded by David T. Abercrombie. Fast forward to 1904 and Ezra Fitch joins the game, giving the store its famous name Abercrombie & Fitch. The duo's success was no joke, and they even retired early, leaving the company in the hands of James S. Cobb. Under his leadership, Abercrombie & Fitch acquired several successful companies, and by 1929, they were raking in over $6 million in revenue annually. They even survived the Great Depression, and by 1939, they were the world's leading sports goods store, with famous customers like Ernest Hemingway and Teddy Roosevelt. But as you may know, success can be fleeting, and Abercrombie & Fitch faced some major challenges in the early 2000s. Offensive remarks from the CEO and a rough economic climate threatened to bankrupt the brand. But wait, there's a twist. Despite these obstacles, Abercrombie & Fitch has managed to make a major comeback. How did they do it? Back in the 1950s, the brand was on top of the world, remodeling its stores to feature impressive displays of big game heads. But by the 1960s, things were starting to go south. Despite increasing revenue, net profits were declining, and the president at the time, John A. Cheever, seemed unconcerned. However, by the late 1960s, the company was in dire straits, resorting to warehouse sales to stay afloat. Revenue was plummeting and net profit was at a devastating negative $500,000 per year. But wait, there's more on the horizon. In 1975, a new president named Credence Camus took the reins and made major changes to the company. He tightened up credit practices, managed inventory more effectively, and cut expenses where possible. He also revamped store displays to highlight power-priced items, but these efforts weren't enough to turn the tide. Sales in 1975 resulted in a net loss of a whopping $1 million, and Abercrombie & Fitch filed for bankruptcy in August of 1976, closing its doors in early 1977. However, this wasn't the end for the iconic brand. In 1978, Oshman stepped in with a $1.5 million investment to revive the company. He opened a few stores and sold a variety of items, but struggled to find a new identity for the brand. Despite criticism that he should let the company go under, Oshman persisted. And in 1988, Limited Brands, already known for popularizing Victoria's Secret and Express, acquired Abercrombie & Fitch for a cool $47 million. Let me take you back to the 1990s when Abercrombie & Fitch was at the peak of its game. In 1992, Mike Jeffries was appointed as the new president, and along with Sally Frame, they breathed new life into the company. While the sports side of the business was declining, Jeffries turned his attention to the booming teen market. His instincts were spot on, and the company grew at lightning speed, building stores all across the U.S. They even launched Abercrombie, a line targeting younger kids aged 7 to 14. But as with any successful company, there were some bumps in the road. In 1999, Abercrombie & Fitch was hit with a class action lawsuit accused of using sweatshops to manufacture their clothing. However, the brand continued to flourish, and by the end of the 1990s, it had over 200 stores nationwide, each raking in over $400 per square foot. In fact, Abercrombie & Fitch was so popular that it was the sixth most popular brand among teenagers, outranking iconic brands like Levi's and Nintendo. In 2000, Abercrombie & Fitch launched Hollister, a brand that became an instant hit among high school students, so much so that it started to cut into the revenue of its parent company. This prompted Jeffries to take a bold step and transform Abercrombie & Fitch into a luxury brand. He used higher-grade materials, raised prices, and coined the term casual luxury. The heavy promotion paid off, and the brand's image was elevated to that of a nerdy luxury brand, a true testament to the company's resilience and ability to adapt to the changing market. After the success of Hollister, Mike Jeffries wasn't content with just two brands. In 2004, he launched Ruelle, number 925, aimed at an older demographic of 22 to 35-year-olds. With a flagship store opening in 2005 and revenue on the rise, the company had no plans of slowing down. In fact, they expanded to Canada in 2006 and opened their West Coast flagship store at The Grove. The cherry on top was reaching $3.318 billion in revenue in 2006, surpassing the previous year by over $500 million. Their success didn't stop there. Abercrombie & Fitch set its sights on Europe, opening its first flagship store in London in March of 2007. The store was a hit, generating a jaw-dropping $280,000 in just 6 hours. And with 2007's record revenue of $3.749 billion, Abercrombie & Fitch seemed unstoppable. But as the saying goes, what goes up must come down. In 2008, the global economic recession hit, and Abercrombie & Fitch found itself in a tough spot. Despite declining revenue, Mike Jeffries refused to lower prices or offer sales, believing it would harm the brand's image as a luxury brand. This decision backfired, leading to a significant drop in revenue to $3.54 billion in 2009. The company had to lay off 50 employees in January and another 170 in May in June, feeling the effects of the economic downturn. Picture this. Abercrombie & Fitch, a brand that had been struggling financially, was making some big moves in the retail world. Despite closing a number of stores abroad, they were still opening flagship stores left and right. And these weren't just any stores. They were breaking records and making headlines. Their flagship store in Tokyo was the biggest retail moment in history. It raked in a whopping $550,000 in revenue on its first day of business. Abercrombie & Fitch wasn't just focused on profits. They also launched an initiative called Epicures to highlight their philanthropic efforts. And while other companies were still reeling from the economic recession, Abercrombie & Fitch was bouncing back. By shrinking their US footprint and closing stores, they were actually becoming more profitable. They were even the first of their competitors to recover from the recession. But just when things seemed to be going so well, disaster struck awfully. Mike Jeffries, the mastermind behind Abercrombie & Fitch's brand image, made a fatal mistake. In 2013, he made some insensitive comments that completely contradicted the inclusive and welcoming image the brand had been trying to cultivate. He essentially declared that only thin people were allowed in their stores. This move completely destroyed their brand image and left Abercrombie & Fitch scrambling to recover. This was one of the biggest scandals to ever hit the retail industry. It all started with some seriously offensive comments made by Abercrombie & Fitch's CEO back in 2013. He claimed that only attractive people should wear their clothes, and that anyone who wasn't cool enough should shop elsewhere. But that's not all. It turned out that he had a history of making offensive remarks going all the way back to 2006. Needless to say, the public was outraged. The backlash was so intense that it caused a wave of bad press for the company and even led to some of their staff members coming forward with stories of mistreatment. This was a historic moment in the retail industry. People had never seen anything like it before. As the scandal continued to escalate, the value of Abercrombie & Fitch became directly tied to the CEO's offensive comments, even though he eventually stepped down due to public disapproval. In 2014, the damage was already done. The company was now one of the most hated retail stores around. Abercrombie & Fitch wasn't about to go down without a fight. They started making some major changes, like ditching their attractive sales clerk-only policy and removing shirtless models from their stores. They also phased out logos and started offering all sizes, making their brand more inclusive for everyone. But the veteran brand underwent a complete rebranding after controversy and poor staff treatment destroyed its image. But the company made a stunning recovery, shifting its focus to 18 to 24-year-olds, redesigning stores, and increasing same-store sales for 5 consecutive quarters. Business Insider named it the biggest retail comeback of 2018. Abercrombie & Fitch isn't giving up. They're determined to become a popular clothing brand once again. This company has already overcome 2 major challenges, but can they really make a comeback? Only time will tell. What did you think of this company's journey and nosedive? Do you think they could ever be that popular again? Let us know in the comments below. Drop a comment, and we might just cover it in our next video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to our channel to stay updated on future content. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.